Good evening and welcome to the 8th episode of Leadership Conversations in the Development Sector. The social impact sector is full of passionate leaders with innovative outlooks on the world's greatest problems. Our leadership conversations focus on the unique insights offered by these leaders as they share their experiences and move the development sector forward. Our host, Go Barefoot, is an interactive web portal dedicated to the social sector. It brings together individuals, NGOs, NPOs, and the CSR arms of organizations with the mandate of creating a one-stop information website for both networking and knowledge sharing. We are supported by Catalyst, an NGO which has been preparing young women for leadership roles to create equality in opportunities and bridge the gender gap. Also, we are supported by Third Sector Partners, India's only executive search firm exclusively for the development sector. Our guest today is one of the leading lights in the development sector. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Neeraj Jain, Country Director, India and Director South Asia at PATH.
Thank you, Anjali. Leading lights. My God, you already have me worried now. But thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
Right. So Neeraj oversees the strategic and programmatic engagement for global and in-country programs implemented across PATH's offices in India. Neeraj is a member of CII's Nutrition and Public Health Committee, where he engages with industry leaders on the need for greater investments in India's public health systems. He's also a member of the Management Committee of the Food Fortification Resource Center to promote large-scale fortification of food across India. Neeraj is on the boards of not-for-profit organizations like Water for People and Digital Green. He is in fact a member of the advisory board of CURE, a not-for-profit development organization working with urban, informal and low-income communities. Neeraj comes with over 30 years of leadership experience across business development, marketing and strategic management across Asia and Europe. Neeraj holds a graduate degree in business studies from Hong Kong Polytechnic University and completed his post-graduation in business administration with a major in finance from Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. In conversation with Mr. Jain is Shital Kakkar Mehra, leadership expert and executive presence coach for CEOs. Shital has trained over 75,000 professionals across Asia and has personally coached over 1,000 CXOs in the past 2 decades. She has conducted workshops for diverse organizations across Asia and has been invited as a speaker by leading these schools and professional associations. She is a best-selling author, and her latest best-selling book, Executive Presence, The Poise Formula for Leadership, is India's first research-based formula on this leadership skill. Shital is an active philanthropist and a social entrepreneur. I now hand over the podium to Shital and Neeraj.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you. Welcome, Neeraj. We look forward to hearing your views.
Hi, Shital. Good to see you again. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. What a lovely way to end a day.
Thank you. Okay, so yes, I'm going to ask you our first question, which is that the development sector has significantly changed and evolved in the last couple of decades. So how has leadership evolved to rise up to this big challenge?
Yeah, that's a tough question, Shital. And development sector, we generally look at it as, especially when I wasn't in development, I would say, why can't they solve this problem? But really, development is not easy. If it was easy, we would have fixed the world's problems. Everybody would have been happy, and there would be equity around. Unfortunately, there are no straight answers. The context is changing very quickly, etc. So it's a tough place to be, and I realized that when I transitioned into the sector. Having said that, I think the sector has evolved hugely in the last decade or so. I think COVID is at a point which is an inflection point, which is going to again, take us somewhere else. when I look into my crystal ball, I see a huge amount of change in the next 5 years. But what's happened actually, which is really visible, is that the sector has become very impatient. Donors have become impatient, governments are getting impatient. And I think leaders need to really rise up to that. There are no large grants for 5 years, which used to exist. I mean, there used to be 5-year, $20-30 million grants, and you would sort of develop a plan. You'd go with the plan and come back after 5 years and say, hey, we did this and this is what worked, this didn't work. So that's changed. There is a lot of impatience. There's also a huge requirement from the sector to really become a thought partner with the system, thought partner with donors, thought partner with the community, and really partner in that thinking process as they go along. So more and more, we need to start engaging and really getting communities to really tell us or listen to them. I think the past was about kind of, I know how to do it and I will show you how to do it. And, I will tell the person in the village how they should be growing crops. They know how to grow crops. They probably can teach you a few things, and me, Shital. So, I worked in the water sector, and we would come around and say, we'll tell you how to deal with water. But hey, that's not the way it works anymore. So that's changing. We need to become thought partners. We need to really look at people, listen to people, and solve problems based on that. The other thing that that has really significantly changed is the whole idea of partnerships. I will do everything on my own is not going to work. Understanding what your strengths are, leveraging on that, and also leveraging on other organizations and people's strengths. I think that's going to be absolutely critical. And I think that, to me, is going to be a game changer. And I've seen that in my own work, that when we have collaborated, we have delivered better. We have been much more effective. We have been much more efficient, and donors like us, so we get more money. So what else do you want? People like us are constantly chasing funding to survive. Most leaders in the development sector, I think we wake up thinking about where the next round of money is going to come from. Just one more thing I want to just say is that we used to focus on inputs earlier. What did you do? I trained, right? Then it was about outputs. I trained 100 people, but it's not about that. It's about outcome. What came out of that training and how did it impact? I think that's really important. So just to, close this question of yours, I think that whole focus on impact is where the development sector has really moved. We really need to focus on that. And we also need to be very okay with failure. We need to be very okay with course correction. Course correction is absolutely critical. A lot of times we say, this is our plan. Now we'll follow through, whether it's working or not, it doesn't matter. Let's just keep going. Sorry, it's not going to work. We have to course correct. We have to accept that this is not working and what are the changes we're going to make. So lots of things I think I've learned the hard way. So I'm hoping that some people in the audience will listen to some of those things and probably get it a little bit easier. But the sector's changing.
Very true. I agree with you. So now that you brought up COVID and leadership, now it's very interesting, but today corporations are talking about empathy. They are talking about collaboration. They are talking about respect for the employee, for the vendor, for the environment, things which were always existing in the development sector. Now, how will leadership change? What do you predict are some of the changes that you see in the leadership in the development sector post-COVID?
So, firstly, I want to go to the cause of this change first. Okay, for the first time ever, I think the corporate or the private sector has realized that this is a very, if development is not equitable, it is going to impact everybody. Factories shut down, cities shut down. So if you really want to grow economically, development is going to be critical. And I'm quite happy that COVID came along in a way, because thanks to COVID, health as a subject, public health, is now completely political. So every election is going to be fought on health. So we're going to make a lot of advance there. So you can see me smiling all the way. We are also finding that everybody's realized that it's an economic nightmare if we are not able to solve for some of these things. So again, health will be at front and center. I think leaders will have to think from a perspective of collaboration, from a perspective of a holistic view. We used to think, okay, me, my family, okay, people who work with me. Now it's not that. My mohalla, it's not that. It's the whole population. Yeah. You could get COVID from anywhere, so you've suddenly got this reality check which says it's not about just my surrounding or I can afford to go to a Medanta, but what happens to that next person who can't? And if they're not getting the right quality of services, what's going to happen? So that collaboration, partnership, coming along, looking at equity, I think that's absolutely critical. I think also some amount of reskilling will have to happen. Some amount of introspection about, what is my medium-term goal? What is my long-term goal? What is my area of influence and how am I going to actually have impact there? Is going to be important. Impact is going to be important again, outcome and impact. So there again, it's not about how many oxygen plants I set up. It's about how many lives got impacted with that. So that's going to be important. So, those are all the things that are coming together. And finally, they will have, we will all have to become much more agile, much more responsive, which is all good for us. It's all good for development. It's great for development. And it's not just health. While health is going to be front and center, and I'm very happy because I work in the health sector, but it's going to be about water sanitation. It's going to be about education. It's going to be about poverty alleviation. It's going to spread across. So leaders will have to. Yeah.
I agree with you that the government and the development sector and the corporate sector will have to now work cohesively. Absolutely. Because COVID has shown how even at the grassroots level, everything was done by the development sector. So, it was big learning. I'm just going to change tracks and talk to you about leadership when it comes to helping develop talent, So how does your organization proactively help develop potential leaders? What are some of the best practices? Possibly some international and domestic programs. So, if you could shed light on that.
Sure. I don't think programs help develop leaders at all. I think it's culture which develops leaders. And I think we need to understand that very quickly because we always feel, there's a program officer, junior program officer will become a senior program officer. After another 5-7 years, they'll become probably a manager and so on and so forth. That's how we've lived our lives. That's how the development sector lived. It is really not about that. It is about creativity. It is about innovation. It is about letting them fail, and really letting them think. I think a lot of times we don't even let them think. The way our programs are written, I found program officers actually don't have to think. They could just continue to follow that document and just deliver, this line item mein ye hai, just keep delivering on that line item and make sure that money is spent. We have a burn rate concept in development. And I hate the word, but it's actually burn rate. How fast are you burning the money? Are you burning the money the way you had committed or not? And I'm like, why do you need to burn the money? Use it effectively. But anyway, and I'm sure a lot of the people who are in this call who are from the sector will agree with me. But we really have to change that. We have to let, leaders come out. I've seen leaders come out in PATH and I think PATH follows that philosophy. We want every leader, every person in the first line, second line, third line, fourth line to be an entrepreneur. Go out there. Try something out. Fail if you will, but try something new. So I think creativity is going to be absolutely important. And unless we unleash that, we aren't going to have leaders. We'll have managers, but we're not going to have leaders. So I think that's, from my side, that's one very important thing. I think also we need to start celebrating failures. We don't talk about failures, we only talk about our successes. How do we celebrate failures? Because the failure teaches us quite a bit. And some things, they fail today and they'll be very successful in a few years. I mean, to give you an example, this new vaccine that's coming from Zydus Cadila, it's got a
DNA based.
Yeah, but it's got a machine which delivers the vaccine without an injection. It's called PharmaJet. And that PharmaJet was developed in our labs. 7, 8 years ago, it's a failed product. And now all of a sudden it's like, it's, going to make waves there. I think also we need to push to impact. We need to in development, especially, we need to push people to think about impact. How many people were you actually able to make a difference in? And be transparent about it. Be okay with the fact that you weren't able to, or you tried, but it failed, and I'm going to course correct. Be okay with course correction. We were always afraid about going back to donors and saying, listen, this is not working, and now we want to change the program. This is the fear in the development sector. Get over it. Donors are very happy when you go back to them and say, this is not working. I mean, some donors may pull out your grant, but that's a risk worth taking. But it's worth going back and saying, listen, this is not working, guys. Can we please change this? So, and this is how it may work. Let's try it out. If it doesn't work, we'll change again. And finally, career paths. We always think about career paths internally. I think about career paths externally. I want all my staff to go to a WHO or a UNICEF or a World Bank, go and get those big jobs there, So career paths are extremely critical. And we've had huge success in that, and my HR hates me because I'm the referee for most of my teams who go to these great jobs. But these people have gone there and really built that alumni of path, which is absolutely stellar. So let's think of career paths beyond, we're not bonded labor. We are here to do a job, and we're here to build our careers. So again, you have an HR consulting firm, so you'll understand what I'm talking about.
But that's very progressive thinking, and I agree with you completely. And working with as entrepreneurs, I think that's also phenomenal, because operating with founders' mentality is definitely the way forward if you are going to have people who are going to contribute or have creativity, which comes with which is par for the course. Anyway, so my next question is to do with technology. Now, how has technology impacted the development sector, especially in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so firstly, not enough. We are so afraid of technology, just to get our projectors working, we fight every day. I'm presuming a lot of you out in that audience do that. And I always sit there and say, I can't even get a projector working. What am I talking about? Technology, digital health, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of that, blockchain. So firstly, we are not doing enough. We need to do a lot more. I think COVID has pushed us in that direction. Although I still don't think we're doing enough, because most of the calls that I get on, people don't even switch on their camera. So I'm wondering, where the technology is gone. You were better off on those black phones that we had was the same. So we're not really using the technology. We're not using it to collaborate. We're not using it to partner. We're not using it well enough in the way we run our programs. We're not using it for data visualization. We're not using it for measuring impact. There is so much that you can do. And then if you come down to actual solutions, you can actually, sitting in, in Delhi, you can do a diagnostic for cervical cancer in Gorakhpur. There is so much you can do. And you could do that without any human intervention or without any technical intervention, because there are tools available. There are artificial intelligence-based tools which are able to actually screen for tuberculosis. And I'm sorry, I keep talking about health, because that's probably the only thing that I really know a little bit about. But, cervical cancer screening can happen. There is so much you can do. We don't use technology. And I think somewhere we feel that technology will take our jobs away. But that's not true. It will just make us more efficient. And we really need to get efficient. Our country is suffering. We've got so many people suffering because they just don't have quality. We really need to use technology, especially in far off places. You cannot find an MBBS doctor in a small village in Manipur. You will have to use technology. So I think there's a big role to play.
Yeah. Big game changer.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the divide between the corporate and the development sector is breaking, and there's lots more that is they are learning from each other. So what are some of the processes or systems that the development sector can take from the corporate sector?
I was in the corporate sector, and unfortunately, Anjali also gave my background, so everybody knows I studied finance in my postgrad from FMS Delhi. But I think one of the most important things is that in the corporate sector, there is this one single focus of bottom line, right? We all chase the bottom line. How much money am I making for the organization every day, every week, month, etc. In the development sector, we don't have that. Our bottom line is impact. When have we woken up and said, what is going to be my bottom line today in terms of impact? What is it going to be 1 week later or 2 weeks later or 1 month later or 1 year later? So I think that is important. Remember that our bottom line is impact, and impact is much more difficult to earn compared to money. So actually the private sector has it probably easier because it's very difficult to get impact. It's also very difficult to measure, but there are ways to do it and we need to focus on that. The other thing is about return on investment. What is the amount of money we are spending? What is the time, etc. So that's something that we need to imbibe in our system. There is a return on investment. If I am staying in a village for 6 years, why am I there? 100 household village. I mean, this is a large country. So what am I doing? Why am I still there? And how do I exit? And how do I make it sustainable as I move forward? So I think that's going to be important. I had a very interesting experience during the oxygen crisis, and Path was right bang in the middle of it. We did a lot of work then. And I remember we were procuring certain solutions on an emergency basis. And my procurement team said, yeah, we have sent the procurement request to Seattle and now we are waiting for approval. I said, do you realize that if you wait for 2 days for approval, do you realize how many lives you may have caused the loss of? So that whole thing of, time is important. Scale is important. You really need to turn this very quickly. So I think those are the learnings from this side. I think from a private sector perspective, they need to get into empathy. They need to think beyond themselves. And they need to realize also that when they do stuff for the community, it always comes back. It always comes back. And, you ask, Sanjeev from Unilever, he'll tell you that. You ask any of the top leaders in India, Godrej, they'll tell you that it always comes back.
Agree with you. I'm going to ask you a tougher question now. What can government learn from the development sector?
Well, I think the first thing that the government really can learn from the development sector is that, they have so much money and such a large organization. We have this much money and a small organization. Their dependency on the development sector needs to be zero. I remember going into a government meeting once and somebody asked me from the government, what are you doing here? And it was a bit of a nasty question. Why are you here? Kya chahiye tumko mere se? I said, sir, I am here because you're not doing your job. Because if you do your job, I don't need to be here. I can go home, So I am here to fill in that gap of you not delivering on your promise or what you're supposed to do. So I think one important thing is accountability. I think the government needs to really, and I think I've seen a huge shift in the last decade of the government really taking accountability. Officers are fantastic. I've been with district collectors, I've been with the central governments, I've been with state governments, and we have some really good officers. Unfortunately, our processes have bound them up and they can't move very fast. So I think that's going to be important to really simplify some of those things, to empower them, and again, let them be creative because they have all the answers. They don't need me. They know the answers. Somebody's been working in the immunization program of Bihar for the last 20 years. He doesn't need Neeraj Jain to come and tell him what he should do with immunization. He just needs the government to untie his hands so he can actually deliver on that.
Go out and do. Yeah, so
I think,
the bureaucracy.
Yeah, absolutely. So the government has to really go there. They have to build leadership. That's the other thing that I think government would have to do. Build leadership, encourage leadership, and let people be creative. Let people fail. There's a lot of penalty in government if you fail and if somebody complains against you, etc. That needs to be sort of softened out. So I think those are the things that I would say.
Okay, I'm going to change tracks and ask you a question on talent. So what are the shortcomings of today's leaders in the development sector?
I think the biggest shortcoming is I find that a lot of times we think more about where is my salary going to come from, where do I get funding to build the next project so that I get my next salary. So I think, that as a concept troubles me to no end because, we're here to put ourselves out of a job. But I think that's, so if we start focusing on impact, I think that's, one of the big shortcomings. I don't see too many leaders focusing on that. I don't see too many leaders actually thinking about, creativity or doing things differently. A lot of our programs have been running, if you look at some of our programs, they've been running exactly the same way for the last 15, 20 years. And we're not trying to put in something new. We're not trying to think differently. So that's, I think, going to be absolutely critical. Bring some of those new ideas. I think also new talent. There's so much young talent available in India. And most of these are the people who are actually hanging around our governments as consultants and advisors and all. I think they should be empowered. I think, some of them are great. They would be able to run some programs very well. So there needs to be a lot of change in the way we operate in terms of bringing leaders in.
Superb. Okay, so social media, of course, has become very important in the last few years, especially during the pandemic. And personal branding on social media has also become very important. So, any practices that you as a leader follow, which you would like to share with our listeners?
So, firstly, I'm very embarrassed because I'm one of those people who's always tweeting and posting on LinkedIn, and I have people call me and say, "What the hell are you doing? You're just kind of talking about yourself all the time. How full of yourself are you?" So unfortunately, that's the way you get noticed. And it's not, it really helps the organization, because if you don't talk about your programs, etc., see, who are we talking to? We're talking to our stakeholders, our donors, our partners, people in the sector. We talk to our governments. We want them to see us. So that's what we do. So from a business perspective, if I were to say, that's absolutely important. I think it does rub off on the individuals. So I can tell you, I get a lot of headhunter calls because of my active participation on social media.
The visibility in the right
visibility,
circles.
absolutely. So, if I get the next job, it'll probably come from there. So I do get advantage out of that. I do get invited to talks like you. I mean, Shital, you wouldn't have talked to me if I wasn't all over social media, probably. So it does help from that perspective. But it helps the business. It really helps the business.
Yeah.
I think I have seen that work very well. We, in fact, have a newsletter. We have social. We're constantly tweeting. We're constantly on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. So it's a double-edged sword. So I think at some point I sometimes feel we're using it too much, and I see a lot of organizations using it too little. They do such great work, but they don't talk about it, and I think that should also change.
Agree with you. With the world becoming flat now, you can have a donor sitting in any part of the world. Also, you could have somebody helping you from any part of the world. And we've even seen during COVID times that, social media really did help people find a hospital bed or an oxygen tank. So it did connect, and, that was, yes, I agree with you. Social listening, visibility, knowledge sharing. So multiple benefits. And of course, we follow you on social media. So my final question to you before, of course, we take audience question is that, what is your 2 pieces of advice to the rising stars of the NGO world on how they should manage their career? So we have a lot of people in the audience who are in their late 20s, early 30s, and they have a 30-year career ahead of them. So what would you advise them? Some pearls of wisdom.
Sure. I think a few things. Firstly, you are the future of the country. So please continue to do what you're doing. Passion is important, but it's not all from the heart. We really want your minds. We really want these young minds, and they are brilliant. Shital, if you sit with some of our 30, 35, 25 to 35-year-olds in our office, the things they come up with, it's just fantastic. So keep the creativity going, stay in the sector. We need you, the country needs you. And I think you'll feel very proud of yourself when you reach my age and, you have a lot of gray hair. So that's one that I would definitely say. I think I also want to say that, don't be afraid, be fearless. Because the sector sometimes sort of pushes you down. And, it's you need to just be yourself. You need to be able to be, vocalize. You need to be able to push. you need to take stands. I think it's important.
Yeah.
And if your individual stand doesn't work with the organization, then, so those are some of the things that I would suggest.
In fact, while you were saying, somebody in the audience has typed in and said, ask him for advice for mid-career professionals as well. So yes, we would like to take this question forward.
Well, I mean, for mid-career professionals, I mean, I switched to development I'm 53 now, so secret's gone. I switched to development about when I was 44. And my wife believes it was a midlife crisis. I bought a motorcycle and I came to development. So, that tells you a lot about me. I think for mid-career professionals also, it's very important. Make sure that you are ready for the long haul. It's not easy. I had a tough time getting into the sector. I was actually willing to work for free to start with because I just wanted to test it out. It's also don't think creatively. Bring your insights from the rest of the your career. Bring all those insights in. Get in touch with third sector partners. They're a great placement organization. Now I've earned my evening. So, but yes. Moving from the private sector to development or within development, and think a little bit creatively in terms of career path also. I think those days of staying in one organization for 10, 15 years, I don't recommend. Come in, do your bit, move to the next one or the next sector or whatever. And development is all the same.
Yeah, and stay in touch with other people, networking internally, externally, building your contacts, building relationships. And I agree with you completely. So we have audience questions. We have Bhumika who's going to ask us a question. So yes, can we have the spotlight on Bhumika?
Hello, hi Neeraj.
Hi.
Hi. So I want to ask is as we all know that not just in India, but worldwide, the social sector and the not-for-profit played an important role in handling the adverse and harsh effects of the pandemic. So I wanted to ask you that how do you think that the new social work professionals and young people like me should develop their leadership skills or skills, to be able to work alongside the government?
Yeah, so firstly, I need to tell you that the government is no hawa. Okay, don't be afraid of the government. The government is just humans like us, and they are well-intended, mostly. You may find a few who are, just there because they get a salary and they are waiting for their pension. But mostly, I would say 90% of the government people that I've met are very well-intended, very intelligent, very smart. So firstly, don't worry about that. When you say that the not-for-profits during the pandemic handled most of things, sorry, I don't agree with you. It was a collective effort. The government did its bit. Good or bad, you can have a scoring sheet for that. Not-for-profits did their bit. Again, good or bad, you can have a scoring sheet. And the private sector also did its bit. Hugely. I mean, if I look at organizations that came together like ACT grants, unbelievable. And I've been talking to these people and he's talking to me about putting one PSA plant somewhere. And I'm like checking his background. And this guy runs one of the largest investment banks in India. And he's figuring out how to get oxygen to people. So it's been a collective effort. And, I would say that it's, for the first time, it's all come together. People have come together to solve for a problem. And I'm not sure if we solved it very well. My children, I must tell you, Bhumika, used to look at me and say, this is during the peak of the third wave. And when I was at home, I couldn't even run away. They would ask me, you work in public health. What the hell is going on? What are you doing? Why are you sitting at home? So it is overwhelming. Don't get overwhelmed. We do our bit and we try and make as much of a difference as we can.
Thank you, Neeraj. Our second question is from Anjali Hari. So could we have the spotlight on her, Anjali?
Hi.
Hi, Anjali.
Good evening, Neeraj. Good evening, Shital. So I have one question. Despite a busy schedule and transforming lifestyles, what are some ways in which the healthcare of youth in India can be increased and how effectively this can be communicated to them to see some significant effect?
This is a very important question, Anjali, and I think we need to spend a little bit more time on our youth.
Right.
In fact, one of the things that I've noticed, and I live in Delhi, is that my children are not allowed to go to parks and play cricket or football. Why? Because there are people walking there, old people, because the plants may get bad. So they don't have a place to play.
Correct.
Now, to me, that is the biggest disservice you can do to our youth. We are actually discouraging them from going out and playing in the park, right? So I think we really need to focus on their physical health. Of course, some kids in the new generation are pretty conscious, but we also have the other side of obesity. We have that huge problem to deal with. The larger problem, and we've just done a landscape of the mental health, tools in India. That's a huge challenge. We really have to get our act together. We have to, schools were not opening. I mean, schools had to open. Kids had to go out.
Absolutely.
We locked them up and said, sit in front of the screen. And thankfully, mine have gone to school this week. So I am very, very happy. They were very smiley when they went. But we need to be, and they're in class 9 and 11, so they've gone. But class 5, 6, they're still not going. What are we making out of these kids? We are really causing a disservice. So mental health is going to be a big challenge, and I think we need to really focus on that. I think overall, we need to put our younger generation in front of us. We've lived our lives. I think it's time that we really focus on them. I'll tell you, I'm in Kathmandu right now, and they are starting a vaccination for their 12 to 18 with a Pfizer vaccine in the next 3 weeks. How brilliant is that? The older generation hasn't got vaccinated. They're going down to this because they want these kids out there. So it's about how you think about your children and how important they are, and especially the adolescent, the youth is going to be our demographic dividend.
Absolutely.
But I think we are frittering it away.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Super. So yes, any more questions? One more question from the audience, if there is any. Sakshi.
Yes, Shital. So yes, there is one question. So that is, what are the qualities you look for in a future employee and why?
For me, the quality that is most important is being able to think outside, think crazy. I like crazy thinkers, come up and give me the craziest of ideas and I'll be listening very, 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 very attentively. I like entrepreneurs. I like people who go out there and get things done. For me, I've never managed to recruit somebody who just gives you those standard answers and wants to run a program because they've run a program for the last 25 years. I've never managed to recruit any of those. So you really, I would want the person to be thinking out of the box, the person to be thinking creative, the person to ask me lots of questions. What I like about the youth is most of these interviews I do with the 25, 30-year-old kids, they walk in and they say, hi, Neeraj. And I'm like already blown away. I could never do that when I was that age. I think they're also not as financially wound up as I probably was in my youth. I got out of university, I needed to make money. I needed to make lots of money. These guys, they care about the environment. They care about all the good things around us. They have a stand, they will come up and tell you, I don't agree with what you're doing. And then you have to explain why you're doing what you're doing. And maybe also listen to what. So I think, those are the things that that for me are extremely critical when I look at a person.
Superb. Thank you so much. We have run out of time. We can ask you many, many more questions. And thank you so much for the wonderful insights and really enjoyed your answers on critical questions on leadership, of course, with a dash of humor, which we've also enjoyed. So really appreciate your time, and I'm sure our audience will write into you. On that note, thank you, goodbye, and everybody stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shital. Bye. Take care. Bye, everybody.